War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We'll take you however we can get you, and we appreciate you spending just a little bit of your very, very finite and special time with us. On tonight's live stream, as it has been the case for most of football season, we sit down, we break down games, we grade it out, have a lot of fun with that, especially on games like this. And that is going to be the case tonight. As you're coming to the stream, please do make sure that you do a couple things for us. If you enjoy this type of content, if you enjoy it throughout it, just make sure you smash that like button to help other people know that it's out here, that they can join in on the fun. Post where you're watching from, city, state, international, all that good stuff. And we're going to talk about some other things as we get going tonight. As has been the case on Monday nights, I like to have an extra voice, but this time the voice is going to be on the road. Austin Scott is here from his car. How's it going, Austin?
I'm good, Kyle. I'm still traveling after that game. I'm just driving around and around and around, hoping it reverses its place somehow.
Austin literally just was so upset that he had to just drive away. He's probably somewhere in like Tacoma, Washington right now. That's how long he's been driving. The way some people react to losses, I wouldn't be surprised if someone actually does that, Austin.
No kidding. No, I'm just traveling. I'm actually heading back to the plains from a day in Birmingham, but so no one can see my mean mug tonight. But I'll still be talking and listening.
It's probably good, let's be honest, that you're
True.
off camera tonight. So some of the faces that you're going to be making for some commentary, whether it's about the game, people's reaction to the game, and then the other events that have unfolded since the end of that game. This is not a fun one, is it, Austin?
No, it's not. Things went from bad to worse, and then even worse after the game, and really stinks for the whole weekend. Well, I know we'll get into it, but man, just what a bad weekend all around after the events of the game and the injuries, and you mentioned it, the way people react. I just hope it's not the end of the world, and man, I just hope and pray that many of the watchers or listeners can find the same hope in other things outside of Auburn football. I know our guy Clint Richardson has been testy on Twitter about that, but it's not the end of the world, people. It's a football game. But
are you sure?
We'll get into it.
Are you sure it's not the end of the world?
Well, I've been driving from Auburn, Alabama to Tacoma, Washington. I haven't seen any fireballs coming down, so I think it's all right.
All right, so a couple of things to set the table for tonight. My favorite phrase of all time. I didn't realize I said that phrase until people started pointing it out listening to the podcast. But yes, setting the table. Here's what's on the agenda. You know that we break down, we grade everything. We're going to do that with all of you. You're going to help us do that. Tonight is an exclusive Booster Club member call-in only show. So they have the link. You guys, if you're watching live, you can call in at any point. So feel free to take advantage of that. That way I can actually have a face, not Austin's just little circle there on the screen to stare at. We know Austin's on the road and there's a little background noise. If that becomes too much, please let us know in the chat. We will mute it when he's not talking if that becomes a problem. But to me, on my end, it doesn't sound terrible, but we do want to make sure we have a good experience overall. Also, there's a couple of people that have, what shall we say, misbehaved in comments on our channel this week. And I've called them out and have said they can call in at any point, really Wednesday night. But if they decide to show their faces, we might just let them in, just so that we can kind of put them to task about a few things. They know who they are. Anyway, other than that, that is basically what's going to happen here tonight. I want to get into a couple of just saying hello to people, some initial commentaries, and kind of get our thoughts on it. And then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of everything tonight. We got Neil White here, says, here's the next season. Hope Coach Harsin can recruit. Recruiting is going to take more than just a few years to get accomplished, I think. Austin, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see an initial fix with the recruits coming in next year?
No, I think you'll see some improvement, hopefully, in some areas if Harsin's getting his own guys. I'm not one big to really care about recruiting all that much. I know it's important. I'm just saying I'm not big on the coverage of it. But it's hard to deny that I think we're 12th in the SEC, and you could say it's his first year, but there's other guys, Beamer at South Carolina and Heupel at Tennessee, that seem to be even higher than that. So it's part of it, but yeah, I definitely think it's going to be an adjustment he'll have to make, and we'll see how it goes. But a lot of people are upset about it. I know that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm upset about it, too. I mean,
Sure.
Is there anybody that's happy with the loss? If you're a reasonable person, no. But the way you respond after, that is kind of the way that defines who you are as a person, and just to be quite frank. Corey says that you're trying to pull off the Superman effect of reversing the Earth's orbit, trying to go back in time. I think we'd all like that. Although I don't know that Auburn's defense could stop, even if we went back in time. Offense. Dusty, good to see you, my friend. He says he's very proud of the way Bo Nix has handled this situation, letting his face speak for itself. Jesus is king. With him, all things are possible. Well said, Dusty.
Amen.
Well said. Let's see here. What else? Everybody else is saying. Thomas, I'm upset with the loss, but we got to take the wins and losses. Thankful that Finley has some game reps and starting experience for LSU and Auburn. It is not over. So here's a great way to maybe a little opening topic too, because obviously we're here to break down the game and do the grades, but we've all been inundated with the news. Bo Nix is done for the season with his surgery. And Anders Carlson, as of the press conference today, Coach Harsin said he's going to have surgery. So that's, very unfortunate. Two key starters are down. And now TJ Finley gets the chance that a lot of people wanted him to have. So here's what I'll say about it. I am so happy for TJ, not the way he's getting the opportunity, but I'm happy he's getting the opportunity to show that Georgia State was not just a fluke. So what's your thoughts about the whole Bo situation, Anders situation, even TJ getting a start? I know that's a lot to kind of talk about it, but any thoughts on that, Austin?
Sure. Yeah. I really wish I was on camera tonight because I do have my Focus and Having Fun t-shirt on. So I was fully supporting Bo Nix today, but Kyle and I have not shied away from we think Bo Nix is quarterback one, and I truly am upset for him and for Auburn because I do think he gives Auburn the best chance to win. However, it's really good. I think you mentioned it in someone's comments, but it's really good. TJ Finley has game experience, and that's going to serve well now that we really need him. And like you said, this is an opportunity that he has prepared for, and he deserves to be in this situation. And so I'm excited for him. I know a lot of people are excited and have hoped he gets this shot. My only caution words of caution is I just hope we're careful what we wish for and that things do turn out well with TJ. We mentioned this after the Georgia State game. I don't think that either of these next two games, one against a not great team, one against a really good team, are really any definition of TJ Finley, whether he does well or whether he does poorly, just because of the situation and the scenario Auburn football is in right now. So just grace upon grace is hard to give as Auburn fans, and I hope that helps with TJ Finley. As far as Anders Carlson, I'm absolutely sucker punched for him. It's probably his Auburn career is over, and he's the Carlson family tree looks like it's over at Auburn, and they have served Auburn well, and I hate it for him and the young man he is, but wish him the best and hope he has a speedy recovery. For the kickers, I honestly, before today, had no idea who the backup kicker was. My mom,
I still don't know who it is.
I said I know one guy's last name. I think McGuire. But my mom even asked me, do they even have a backup kicker? I was like, yes, Mom. They have. This isn't the NFL where we just go buy one if someone gets hurt. But
with NIL now, you might be able to.
True. But I hope they're prepared as well. It's such a rare circumstance for your starting kicker to go down. And but yeah, it's next man up. And if you're prepared, like Coach Harsin apparently has been preaching to the team, if you're prepared, then you'll have the opportunity to succeed, and let's hope they do.
Right. Yeah. There's going to be more conversations about that. So a couple things I want to encourage you. Go check out the video we did talking about the Bo Nix injury, but also maybe what the surgery was kind of all involved with, what he's kind of looking at in terms of recovery time and stuff. That planning on doing a video about TJ Finley getting his first start and kind of maybe looking at what we've seen from him at Auburn, but also his time at LSU and kind of maybe what to expect. Now, I liked what Austin said here. The easy thing, what's going to happen is for us to get in our factions and, scream, I told you TJ was the best option when this happens,
Yep.
or I told you he was the terrible option. I think Austin said it best. These next 2 games should not be a complete and total reflection. You can take things away from them, certainly, that are legitimate, but you cannot make definitive statements whether he's going to be a successful quarterback at Auburn based off of just these 2 games. Either way. So if you're going to be one of these guys or girls that just extremely jumps over to the side and says, TJ's the quarterback of the future just because he had all these great 2 games, caution flag. Or TJ's the worst quarterback that ever existed because of these 2 games, caution flag. You need to take some time and see what happens after that. This is a great question, and I know we're going to get to breakdown and grades here and get started on that. Corey says Ben Patton is the backup place kicker, just kind of clarifying that.
Okay, there you go.
But Devin has a great question. I guess maybe this is I've talked about this a lot, but you can also discuss it as well. Devin asked, do you still think that Bo Nix will leave after this year? I will say that I'm almost ready to change my opinion to no. Do I think that he'll let me clarify. She asked, do you think he'll leave? Now I think he will stay. And I'm not ready to definitively say that just yet, but based off of the injury and what I think that means for his hopes for getting on a team in the NFL, whether that be through the draft or free agency, that kind of hurts it. So now he kind of needs another year. But also Coach Harsin's comments today in his press conference. We talk a lot about listening to Coach Harsin in his press conference. He said it. Bo needs to focus right now and get himself ready to get ready for his off-season workouts. So obviously they've had some type of discussion that there is a chance that he's going to come back. So that is starting to lean me towards he will come back. Whereas if he had a great year this year, no injuries, he would have just gone off into the wind, so to speak. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, you and I are on a very similar page. I wasn't totally sure all year, really, unless Bo just lit it up. But, we've talked about his surrounding circumstances. Most of these guys finish school pretty early because they're done. They go through summers and already start grad school. I don't know Bo's academic situation, but I just know that's a common experience for them. We know Bo's engaged and getting married next summer. So I think, those kind of things point to, was he going to be in college, married, all this? I don't know anything about that, but it's the only thing that would prevent me from saying he's staying is that I've seen many say it's a very weak draft class, and Bo might be in that top 10. It's not going to be first round, probably not going to be second, third, but Bo might be in that top 10 just because it's a weak draft class. Now, does that really give him much money? Does it give him a job for guaranteed for very long? Probably not. I think it is, in my opinion, I think Bo would benefit from another year. I think Auburn would benefit from another year of Bo. And I just think now with NIL as well, that's probably going to help Bo's decision to come back, because we already know he's making a good bit of money just between the various NIL deals he has. I think he could probably hang on to that for another year and continue to benefit himself. I think this has been a really improved year for Bo Nix. I really do. I think this,
because he was having fun.
He was focused. He was having fun. That's right. I think he was really hitting his stride. We'll talk about quarterback play in a minute. I thought Saturday was his best game. But yeah, I think next year he does come back is where I'm leaning. Not for sure ready to go there yet.
Yeah. I think it's still too early just to make a definitive statement, where I was very comfortable saying he wasn't coming back all season. But it's funny to think how things can just change so quickly. And all it took was an injury, and then the other circumstances that could fall into place after that. I think the NIL discussion is a very good point as well. That does make it a little bit easier for players that are wanting to make some money a little bit sooner to help their families. I don't get the impression that Bo's in that position, in terms of needing to help his family. So I don't know that money is going to be a big decision, but it certainly doesn't help, does help. In terms of, just making things maybe like, oh, I'm still making money here, so I could stay and figure things out. Looks like most everybody thinks Nix is going to come back. But yeah, he could. There's several different options for him to figure this out however he wants to, and he's going to make the.
Is there any scenario, Kyle, you think he would transfer to another school?
If I was him, would I have? Yes, after the way people have treated him.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. If there was a better quarterback behind him, and I'm not taking a shot at TJ. TJ
Sure.
has, it's just the facts. I'm sorry. TJ has proven he's not the better option or Bo has proven that he is not TJ. Bo has proven that he's the better option than TJ. And same goes for Demetrius right now. If Demetrius had actually been the better option, coach would have played him, just like Bo was played over Joey Gatewood because he was clearly the better option. And there's no discussion point on that now. So I just say all that to say, I sure hope not. I don't think so. And I think maybe the outpouring of support from most reasonable people, and you know who you are, today and yesterday has really kind of put things into perspective, not just for him, but for the Auburn family, that maybe we're a little too hard on him.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. I think let's see. Kyle, I know what you said on Saturday, but I still believe Bo should have been pulled so it wasn't as severe of an injury. I'm trying to remember what Corey's referencing here. If you're discussing maybe he should have been pulled after the first time they thought something was wrong with him. Yeah, sure, you can make that case, but obviously the training staff thought he was fine. And if you can if Bo's a trooper and go out there and run on a broken foot, I mean, that's pretty impressive right there. All right, let's do a couple things here because we need to get to grades and stuff like that. Let me go ahead and remind you of our sponsor for these live streams, and that is manscaped.com. You can take advantage of some of the great products that they have for men's care and men's grooming out there by going to manscaped.com and using our code E2C for 20% off and free shipping. I've showed you a lot of the products that I've been trying out over the past couple of weeks here, and I've loved every single one of them. So you can go over there and try out some of yourself, whether it's the body wash, the shampoo, the travel bag, the lawnmower 4.0 full grooming razor there that is just really good. I've loved everything that I've tried about that. So please, if you can, go over there to manscaped.com. Lots of holiday gift ideas are needing to be decided for a lot of you, and it's sometimes hard to find what to give to a man. But on manscaped.com, there are several options there. Use that code E2C to get 20% off plus free shipping. That's code E2C or 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. All right, Austin, you ready for this?
I hope so.
It's going to be a fun one. Real quick, a couple other people jumped in the chat while we were getting through thanking our sponsor. Russell's here, says, War Eagle fellas, I just can't see Bo in another college uniform. He loves Auburn, and his love for Auburn is bigger than most. It sure seems that way, and I hope that is really genuine.
I think that's where I'm at as well. I don't know if the kid can wear another uniform.
He seems like that is everything that he's wanted to be, and and Dusty says no way he transfers on that. I think that's a great way to look at it. Jacob says, and this is my cousin, so I'm gonna bring him up a little bit. Can I get any E2C Network merchandise? Yes, over at tpublic.com. Check out the links in the description. You can get our logo, and there's going to be some other things there, like the War Dustbuster T-shirt. Inside joke for those who have been here for a very, very long time. All right, grading time. Let's figure out how to grade what was the debacle of a football game. Where do you want to start, Austin? Dealer's choice.
I'll go. Let's start on. Let's get the running backs out of the way.
Okay, running backs out of the way. So everybody in the chat right now, A, B, C, D, or F, and you can offer reasons why. We want to know from you how you would grade the running backs. Austin, start us off.
My running back grade, I'm going to be looking at my note here. I don't have as many notes as I normally do, obviously, and I'm being a safe driver. My running back grade is D+. I did not think anything happened on Saturday with the running backs. It looked like there may be some tank there right in the first few plays, and then it just kind of tailed off like it has most of the season. It's just not been productive this year And it's really mind-boggling when you look at the talent Auburn has at the running back position. We've talked about reasons that might be. I've been heavy on Tank not hitting the holes he needs to. I saw that again Saturday. I was not at all impressed with the running backs, and I gave him a D+.
I think, again, I love to reference this. If you listen to Coach Harsin in his press conference, if I remember correctly, it's not that he called them out, but when he was talking about who needed to step up to support TJ, he talked specifically about some people on the line, but also he talked about Tank, if I remember correctly. And I find that interesting. Coach is not one to say names unprompted without, having a reason behind that. He's just not going to throw someone out. Every time he's been questioned about how Bo Nix underperformed in the game, he's always said, well, yeah, Bo had a decent game, but did you see that he didn't have any support? So he's always transferring the blame, not just to the individual, but to the, others. He also transfers the praise from one to the other. He said, yeah, Bo might have had a great game, but our wide receivers were catching the ball. The offensive line gave him a better, pocket to throw in. So it all is coinciding here. It's interesting that he said Tank's got to do a better job.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. And so that is starting to make me feel that my thoughts on them, and maybe specifically him, not something being off this year. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking. And because of that, that's kind of affecting my grade, where I kind of wanted to just give them like a flat C, because they did great things in the first, or good things in the first half. It didn't after that, because I'm the offensive line. We'll get there in a minute. You guys know me. At the same time, there has to be some blame on them. So for that reason, I think I don't want to give them I think I'll just give them a D+, because they did things, just not enough things. Is that a fair way of thinking about it?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And like you said, there were things in the first half that went well. You could say that about the entire game. There were things in the first half that went well. I think that, the passing working well in the first half really helped them kind of take pressure off them.
Right.
But once Mississippi State adjusted defensively, and the run game just wasn't there to kind of counteract and pick us back up. So, yeah, I think your grade's totally fair.
All right. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to talk about on that front, because, he says here Hunter needs to step up as well. Had a great start to the year, but, I give Hunter a little bit more leeway because he is a freshman.
Absolutely.
And there's a certain kind of, amped up that you have as a freshman. Look at Tank last year, that you kind of pushes you to do a little bit more, and maybe now some of those realities are set, and there's more tape on him now too. So defenses know how to play him and know how to defend him and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit more lenient on him, but Tank, he's a sophomore. He's been here long enough. And while there is some blame to be going some other areas we'll get to in a second, there's got to be a little bit more contribution there. I'm gonna roll the dice here. Let's do wide receivers and grade those out. Austin, what say you? Everybody else now, you in the chat window too.
Yeah, maybe besides giving up 40 points straight, that was the biggest surprise of the day for me, is the wide receivers. I thought Kobe Hudson had his best day as an Auburn Tiger. I don't know if they found some pine tar they were sticking on their gloves before the game or what, but my goodness, him, Mr. Javaris Johnson, aka Short King, they just had an incredible day. And really, I don't know if it's they found their groove or they got pushed in practice, but I thought that they had a heck of a day. Especially in the first half, obviously when they were scoring enough. I still thought in the second half they got space off of the DBs, like they were not able to do at all last week against A&M. I also think, I mentioned Javaris Johnson. He started this week. I think that was notable, just for us seeing kind of, if he had a good week in practice and he earned that spot to start, Harsin gave it to him. So I gave them an A-. I thought they were really the brightest spot of the offense for me, especially Kobe Hudson.
What was surprising about this game is it looked like a completely different unit.
Yeah.
Like night and day. This is the potential that we saw in this group across the board. And I'm not just saying, one particular player. I knew Hudson, Johnson, Jackson, Robertson were capable of all this.
Definitely.
let me just run through some numbers here for everybody. 8 receptions for 107 yards and a touchdown for Kobe Hudson. And what a catch.
Absolutely.
What a catch. I mean, that is the moment, I think, where the pressure came off of Auburn too much, and that's what resulted in what happened, was when that happened, everybody was like, oh, my gosh, we got this. And if we're doing this today, this is over with for them, which was to our detriment. Javaris Johnson, 4 receptions for 102 yards. Shed Jackson, what a start. 3 catches, 72 yards. Demetrius Robinson, who's been a bit of an enigma at times, even still has a decent game with 2 catches for 40 yards. And then there's still Sean Shivers, John Samuel Shanker, Tyler Fromm, Malcolm Johnson Jr. What? Luke Deal getting in the mix again. I mean, with a touchdown, this is by far their best game. All things considered, I'm not going to say it's an A+, but I'm going to give them an A, just because simply the fact that I was so amazed at what I was seeing. It was like, where have y'all been? And I don't know. So I maybe I'm just being a little bit too overly optimistic about them, but I'm just going to give them an A. It seems like we've got B's, A's, one person with a C+, but I maybe it's because my expectations have been so low and it was so much better than that.
Yeah,
that's why I feel that way.
Agree. I'm the same way. I just was surprised, and I think that you make a good point saying that's the potential of this group, and it just, I'm excited for it, but gosh, it just makes me frustrated to think if we could have put this together in earlier games. The Georgia game comes to mind immediately. What could have been, but it's good that they got this kind of game to build off of, and hopefully they stay that way with TJ.
So here's the thing too, and people are pointing out some of the drops and late, and that's why I'm not giving them an A+. And in hindsight, well, in the moment they probably felt like they warranted worse of a grade than that too. In my opinion, the problems with the offense were much more than the wide receivers in that game, and weren't really Bo either from the looks of things, especially if you just look at stats and things like that, and Hart. How about that? But yeah, this is what I envision the wide receivers in the passing game look like, and what a connection between Bo and his receivers wasn't perfect at the end of the things, but the problems with what happened with Auburn's historic comeback loss to Mississippi State was much more than just not being able to score again. You got to be able to stop them too. We'll get there. I know a lot of you are amped up for that. There's people wanting to already move on to defense. We'll get there. All right, let's roll through this here. Let's just save the quarterbacks for last, because we've already talked about Bo a lot. Offensive line. What do you want me to say, Austin? I mean,
give it to us.
Listen, did they give Bo a decent pocket at times this game? Probably more than at times enough this game, yes. And that has been my constant argument throughout this entire season. And everybody, please grade the offensive line now too. Most of the and two. Let me back up a little bit. Last week, especially, I forgot that there were some players that were out for that previous game, so there was a little bit of difference there. But that shows you kind of the problem, even with some of the guys that were moved to, second string. This is not a well-functioning offensive line unit across the board. They are getting little to no room for the running backs. Again, we've already addressed that the running backs have to do a little bit more, Tank included. But, and I don't know why, I'm just not, it just baffles me that we cannot get it together at least more often than we have on the run game. And for that alone, I've got to give the offensive line at least a D-. I mean, I'm not going to give them a failing grade, but they definitely, were a detriment to this game overall. And arguably, combined with the low grade for the running backs, if we're going to blame something offensively, the reason we lost offensively is because we weren't able to establish a run to really eat up clock, keep them off the field, and help the defense out, which was not getting it done. And we're going to get there in just a little bit. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you hit a lot of it. I'm not as hard on them, just probably because I was surprised by how much of an established pocket they were able to do, something we haven't seen consistently. It wasn't perfect by any means. It wasn't even close to where it needs to be. But I was surprised by that, as well as just seeing that with the front Mississippi State has. I was expecting them to get eaten alive. So I have them at just a D plus range, maybe, but mainly just a D. I mean, the running game is just where it starts and ends. I feel like we're a broken record saying that every week, but
Well, because it's the
it's just
truth.
not consistent enough, and it is.
Yeah.
It 100% is, and if you can't realize that, and you still want to say it's Bo's fault, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you except that the guy that we all thought was going to be our next Cadillac Williams is not running anywhere close to yardage he was expected, and that's on him, and it's also on the line that he's been dealt. But that until that is fixed, you're going to hear Kyle and I keep talking about it. I hate to say it.
And listen, I want to reiterate this again, because I know there's some people that'll just harp on the one thing. You're still just all putting it on the defensive line. I've said it, and I'm saying it again. They have done a better job of pass blocking at times, and probably more often than I would have thought they would have this year. And that should get them a better grade in this game for me. But because they could not establish enough room for the running backs to work through their issues, that's why. I mean, that is as simple as that. Football, no matter what the offense is, will always be predicated upon being able to do something with your running game. And let's be honest, I'm going to go look real quick. Rushing. We obviously did more with rushing because Tank did that alone, and then Javaris Johnson had the one reverse run for the touchdown. Or what was? No, that's receiving. Am I looking at that correctly, Austin? Did he have a reverse?
You're talking about Javaris Johnson?
Yeah, that was him, right?
That was it was the kind of RPO style where it was ruled a pass initially, and then they changed it back to a lateral. I think it made it 14-3.
And that's why that confused me so much. And I remembered that, but I was like, why do I still think that it was a pass? Yes. So you can't really count that one as part of that. So with that alone, technically they outrush us, So Mississippi State, in the air raid offense, should never outrush Auburn.
Yep.
If you want to look at the problem with the offense in this game, that's it. Offensive line and running backs not getting the job done. And that's all there is to it. Anyway, quarterbacks, really quickly, we've already talked a lot about the loss of Bo and his, what a man to step up the way he did and fight through all of that. Any other way you want to grade this out? And can we all agree that TJ is not factoring into the grades on this? You can't fault him for that last part of the game.
Yeah, I think that's fair, even though I really wanted to at the very end. But it's not. The game was well out of hand, and Coach Harsin said it today. There was no reason to put Bo back in, down 2 scores, which is a whole nother matter we'll get into, but 2 scores there at the late. So I gave Bo a B+, and really not much to his own fault, except there were just some errant throws there at the end. I don't know how much that really costs or really how much his ankle really played into that. I've never broken an ankle and played D1 football at the same time, but I would think that plays a factor. Yeah, I'm telling you, I thought it was his best game. It was definitely a career high in yardage, 65% of his passes. We just talked about that Javaris Johnson RPO touchdown. You count that one, it's 3 touchdowns over 430 yards. That should be enough to win the game. And unfortunately, the defense, where we'll get to next, let him down. But just a gutsy effort from Bo and one Auburn fans I really, really hope most of them are proud of.
And here's the thing. What this did is what I feel like this performance and now the result of him in Ninja has done something. It has sifted through the people. And listen, I'm not saying you can't be critical, Bo, and not have a preference for somebody else, but it's just the way that you handle that preference that I have a problem with. But what it has done is finally it's exposed the people that truly are being hateful about Bo. And I've seen them, and I've interacted with them today. Oh, we got a dog in the background. Austin, can you mute while the dog is barking just for a second? Unless you're out of that.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get in the door.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Anyway, but yeah, so what that did is it just showed that some people are just hateful. Bo gets an A- from me because he did not have the best second half, and we know a lot of that why now. Bo gets an A- because he had what would have been arguably the best game if he had gotten any support from the run game, and the defense, hadn't made this a little bit more stressful. Anyway, so Bo gets an A. We got a B, B+, A+. I think it's fair to say that, it wasn't a perfect game, but it was, it was a decent enough game there. Austin's running through somebody's yard.
Not quite.
Hey, listen, he got so tired of driving to Tacoma, Washington. Now he's just got to run from there on. All right, overall grade for the offense. It's a tough one to figure out because it was such a great first half. What say you, Austin?
Let me check my notes. I said just a solid B. Really should have gotten more things done. No, let's wait. I'm sorry, I picked the wrong one. I said C+. Really should have gotten more things done in the second half. I think that really moves to adjustments, and I didn't love the game plan after halftime and not adjusting to it, but the offense did looked like world beaters there in the first half, so I want to give them credit for that. But
right,
and I don't know if it's just the defense didn't give them any more gusto on the second half, but just not a great performance from there. So it's just really evens out for me. So I had a C+.
Here's the problem is because it was so good of a first half, I want to give them, at least a B-. And I think that's what I'm going to settle on, but it is worthy of a C+ just because of how abysmal it became at the end and ineffective. The thing that you've got to, not only for Bo, I don't want to make this all about Bo, but they went back out there and they responded with a touchdown. And had Bo not been further injured and had we gotten a little bit of response from the defense, this could have been a different story. We're talking about here because they didn't roll over. Bo didn't roll over. They went out there. The wide receivers caught balls. They got down the field, scored another touchdown to at least kind of make a conversation about the game. So I'm going to say C+, B-, just because I was impressed so much with that first half. All right. Do you even want to do this one? Do you want to talk about defense?
If we have to, I guess they did play the game.
All right.
I guess they did go out there on the field.
Couple things here. If you haven't, please make sure you smash that like button. Let some people know that we're live. Share it in a Facebook group or whatever, because this is the part they want to be involved in, I'm sure. I know everybody's got some comments about Derek Mason. Let's try to keep it on the constructive side. And I'm not saying that anybody's said anything bad yet. I'm just let's try to keep this on the constructive side here. Probably is it fair to say, Austin, that this was Derek Mason's worst game?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's incredibly fair. I'm a little lost for words, clearly. Baffled is the word I would use, just that there was absolutely no adjustments after halftime. Except Kyle and I have told you this, and we all questioned it in the Penn State game. Why aren't we running man? Why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we blitzing? Derek Mason doesn't know any. I'm not saying he's not competent. He doesn't know anything. This is what he's done his whole career, is this defense you're seeing. And the reason they're not blitzing until the very end is because nothing else was working. Was it too little, too late? Yeah, probably. But this is what he's done. This is what's got him here. And that's not what worked against the air raid offense. And credit to Mike Leach for making adjustments, because that's what won him the game. But yeah, I thought it was Derek Mason's worst game by far.
Yeah, and I think that needs to be said too here. Credit needs to go to Mike Leach. Credit needs to go to Will Rogers, their wide receivers, their offense, their team for responding. And look, there's Austin back on the screen. Hey, he made it back from Tacoma, Washington.
We're back from Tacoma.
You wanted to be on camera for the worst part of this, didn't you?
I did, and I just had to get my shirt on.
Focused and having fun. All right. I got a headache just even thinking about this one. Let's talk about maybe the position group that's probably the least frustrating, and that'd be the linebackers. I mean, again, I've said this sometimes while they've been showing up a lot. I feel like there's still more that could be done. Zachaby and Chandler again lead the way with 13 and 10 total tackles, respectively. 10. I know Tennyson's not that he's a defensive back, but it just amazes me that he's just jumped up there right now.
Right.
You know, so and those two alone are continue to show up. They continue to get the jobs done, but it's obviously still not enough for this defense, whether that's scheme, whether that's other things. Again, I have to give them something, maybe like a B-, just because they took care of business and it was above average. But something's got to happen with this defense, and it can't just be we always blame the defensive backs and the defensive linemen. You know, and I'm not blaming the linebackers. I just don't know where else to go with it because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can put some more coherent thoughts together about linebackers.
Yeah, well, I think what something and someone far smarter than I was pointing out is in a defense like this, when there's no tight ends, everybody's a receiver.
Right.
That by default, that makes your linebacker, everybody's a DB.
Right.
And so that means short routes across the middle, crossing routes. The linebackers have to be in perfect position and have the intelligence to know this is where the guy's coming, because that's what the short routes are going to do, is they're going to expose me if I'm not prepared in the right position. They were a step behind the whole game. And you know, we didn't have Owen Papo. I think that deserves worth saying. Something's got him with the injury bug, just like KJ Britt last year. It seems like that someone's not perfectly right, but they just weren't in perfect position. And you're right, it can't be the DBs every time. And unfortunately, the linebackers were at fault for a lot this weekend. So I have them as a C+. I'm also going to grab a Charger.
Well, Austin's just like all over the place tonight. Go ahead, go get your Charger. Go get your Charger. Just don't bring that dog back in here. Yeah, and I like what Russell says here. Well, let's save that discussion for defensive backs, because that's clearly the thing that's the most frustrating about this. But I think that's a great point to continue to reiterate. But you can use this to maybe discuss the other group, the defensive linemen. And everybody's biggest frustration is, why are we not rushing more? Why are we, you know, only rushing 3? Why aren't we sending more pressure? You know, these guys in the 3 that are up there aren't getting the job done. And I mean, I'd have to agree for the most part, but it seems like even when they do get the job done, they can't get a ref to call something properly. So there's that angle of this as well. You know, it's another situation, I feel like, where yes, they do deserve a lot of criticism, but at the same time, when they do things right, they have zero luck. I don't know. Maybe you help me make my grade. What do you think?
Yeah, let me pull up my notes. I had the D line as a D+ just because they didn't do anything. Will Rogers had all day long. I think 2 incompletions in the second half and like a billion touchdowns. Yeah, it was horrible. And you're right though. Like, and I get the whole argument about the targeting call. I'm kind of more like, we should have never gotten there for it to make a play in the game. I don't think it made a factor in the game all that much as to the outcome. But it was horrible. I'm not going to disregard that, especially when there was an identical play in other SEC games that night that did not get called. But besides the point, yeah, it's just, I feel bad for them because I don't know if they can really trust what they're doing. Because, you know, if you don't jump and try and bat the ball down, well, he gets it off. And then you got to go to the sideline. Your coach is getting mad at you. Why you didn't jump? Well, I was trying to get my body right so I could hit him with the right shoulder and not get thrown out of the game. It's absurd. And so the defensive line, D+ for me, they were put in a tough position. I'm not going to lie to that, but it's just more of the same for me, just not getting enough done.
Derek Hall with 3 tackles, Leota with 2, Wooden with 3, JJ Pegues, there he is again on defense with 2. So that kind of, you know, I talked a lot this week. I got the opportunity to join our football podcast because Jared Davis is out traveling with the family. And AJ asked me, it's a preview for the preview of the South Carolina game. I said, I'm watching Tony Fair because, or at least the defensive tackle position, the nose guard position, because they're not here in the tackles.
Right.
We've got to be able to make that pocket collapse at least a little bit. Quarterbacks, especially in an air raid offense, should not be standing there for more than 3 seconds. If they have 3 seconds with 5 receivers out there, they will find somebody. I guarantee, even if you have the best defensive backs and the best linebackers in coverage, somebody will have a shot at getting a little window open in an air raid offense.
Yep.
So that's, when I don't see the defensive tackles, the nose guards showing up at all in the stats, that's concerning to me. You can't, it's hard. It feels bad to fault Derek Hall and kind of rub salt in the wound after, not Derek Hall, excuse me. TD Moultrie. But I think you got to give them probably like a D+ or something like that, because that play alone kind of launches us up there. That's just kind of how I'm feeling about that. Preseason nose guard was Jeremy Wright. Getting injured hurts much more than most realize. Yes, Coach Harsin's talked about him a lot in his press conferences, and he glowed when he was asked about that a couple weeks ago. Like, he was just like, "Gosh, I wish I could have this guy out there."
Right. Yep,
he'd be an amazing addition to that. But Tony Fair's had great games this season, but has been very quiet the last couple of times here. Do we do it?
Yes, we have to.
All right, let me give you some stats for.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me give you some stats to start us off with. I'm going to start with some Mississippi State stats. Will Rogers, 44 for 55. By sheer nature of throwing 55 passes, you expect in that type of offense, even if they're having just an average game, they're going to probably complete 20-something, we'll say 55 passes, 27 other passes. They completed 44. Will Rogers did. 415 yards. Here's the crazy part is Bo, even not in an air raid offense, almost matched that if they had not marked the thing the right way. He grades out almost just as well as Rogers did, except Rogers has 6 touchdowns. 7 receptions for 87 yards. Wally, 74 receptions and 5 receptions and 74 yards for Heath. Polk, who was probably their biggest weapon, but he had the 3rd best game with 61 yards, 44 yards, 40 yards, 30 yards, 22, 22, 20, 15. Austin, I knew that the defensive backs were going to be a problem. They were going to have a problem with the air raid offense. I thought we would be able to get a stop when it mattered, and not a single one happened. There's no other way to wrap this one up. Everybody can grade the defensive backs now. The game is never won and lost by one player or one unit, but you can always look to probably one group and say they made the biggest impact on the game. I think it's fair to say that the defensive backs, or lack thereof, made the biggest impact on this game in terms of allowing the greatest comeback in Mississippi State history in Jordan-Hare Stadium. I will grade them out as a flat F- in every sense of the word. Just not a single stop. And listen, we can scream about scheme. We can scream about whether this is just not the right fit. We don't have the right players for it. It would make sense to me that we don't have the right fit, because these are still Coach Malzahn's players. These are still Coach Steele's players. So you're going to have some bumps and bruises, but it shouldn't be that bad. No. Okay. So F- for me.
Yep. I gave him an F just because I don't know. Like, I don't think I got an F every now and then in school. I didn't get an F-, so I don't know if that's an actual thing, but F is definitely the ceiling. And you mentioned scheme. I do think Coach Mason is a lot to blame for not adjusting. And I thought, the first half, I think Rogers had 9 incompletions, about half as many passes, maybe less. I was feeling good. I thought Roger McCreary was making him some more money again. He played well, and they didn't test him much. But Nehemiah Pritchett, Ladarius Tennyson, Smoke Monday all got tested. And I mean, they knew if Auburn didn't make adjustments, those are our guys. Those are their guys that we're going to expose, and it worked. It worked very well. And so it's an F for me, not even a question.
It's by far the worst defensive performance. It's by far the worst performance by the defensive backs in a year that's been full of that, which we thought was going to be one of the strongest units. When you have a guy like Roger McCreary, and to his credit, I looked on the field several times and I kept looking at the guy they were matching up with him. And I was like, can you see the size disadvantage of that? Like, that is incredible. And he's still doing a decent job covering this guy. And you can tell it must have been Polk. I didn't get the guy's number or name because I know he's like one of their biggest ones. And there was one point where Roger was like on the, if we are the defense staring at the offense, he was on the left side. And then all of a sudden it was like he realized, oh, I'm not supposed to be on this guy. I'm supposed to be manned up on this guy over here. And he had to like cross the field and still did a good job and block the pass down. So he they completed some passes on him too, but it's still, he's not the problem. It's everybody else.
Yeah.
Well,
you can't count on him every time.
Every single time. Bo can't do everything. Roger McCreary can't do everything. And listen, was everybody's game in the defensive backfield terrible? No, but it sure wasn't good. And it's just not good. Linda said they played great in the first half. So did the offense. No, I'm not saying that to just diminish what you're saying. Yeah, but we got to grade holistically. And when you give up, was it 40 points straight or however many? Or
40.
And the interesting is everybody says that 40 unanswered points. That implies that it's the offense's fault. And it is to some degree.
Yeah.
But that's still 40 points. What's missing there is 40 straight unanswered points.
Folks, that's in your own house.
In your own house with our fans cheering very loudly, those that chose to stay, students. Yeah, I left the silence there for a reason. If you're a student, you should be ashamed of yourself. Ashamed. Oh, you're a little cold? Go put a jacket on. Why don't you actually... No, Kyle.
Kyle.
Certain ones need to start wearing some more clothes. Anyway, listen, there's no other way to cut this one open. It's an F. No matter what you think, what kind of F it is bad. It is awful, and they hope they learn from it very much. Dusty is taking a different approach to this. He's saying A because would you ask these type of players to run this type of scheme? And he has a great point. Yeah, but I see your point. It's still going to it's still going to have to be that there. Is it's almost as bad as the USF game? I remember that one.
That's a throwback, right there.
That's a throwback nightmare of a game there. Because the funny thing about that sequence of events was we were number 2. UCF beat us, and then I think they got into the top 10, but then lost next week. But then Florida moved up to number 2 because of that, and then we beat Florida in our own house after we just got beat there. Like it was just like number 2 is like getting flushed every single time, literally. Innuendo, that's meant there. So yeah, it's bad. Okay, overall defense grade. Everybody grade it right now. What do you think, Austin?
D- just because I don't know. Someone did something good. I don't think it's bad.
It's an F. It's an F plus. It's the only reason it's an F plus is because I feel bad for the linebackers, and I agree with Dusty a little bit. I feel bad for some of the players that are in a position where they're trying to adjust to a scheme they weren't recruited for, and you also can't. There's a part of me that you can't fault the coaches completely for that because they're going to run their scheme in this year to try to start building that foundation. I wouldn't have chose a 3-4, never in a million years. But here we are. This is what you get in a wholesale reset.
My thing with just adjustments is I just do I want to go there? We heard time and time and time again about who didn't make adjustments at halftime over the last 8-9 years. And I haven't heard as much. I haven't heard as much outcry, and I think it's very warranted why we didn't make adjustments after giving up a 28-3 lead going into halftime and then giving up 37 more after, or 33 more after the second half. There was a lot talked about when we blew a 20-point lead in Death Valley, and instead we blew a 25-point lead in Jordan-Hare Stadium. And I'm shocked. I'm not shocked, actually, that it's not being talked about more, but
Well, because it's the similar situation. I'll go ahead and say it because you're being nice. I'm not going to be nice because I haven't been nice all week. There is this just vitriol, and I mean about the word hatred for Coach Malzahn and for Bo Nix, and a lot of that is because they seem, I don't know them personally, but I know some about them, and I've had pretty close firsthand encounters to know, not encounter, but people. I'm trying to say people, I trust their knowledge and a relationship with that to know about those two, that they're pretty quality human beings. And what you'll see a lot of times is when they know that you can't take them down in that way, they try to really go for the other areas. And that's kind of what you see in a lot of that. There's a lot of people that need to check themselves on social media, check themselves on YouTube, check themselves when they hide behind their profiles and hide behind their little screen names and stuff like that, and say things that they would never say. And they're getting their shut up juice this year.
Yep.
I said it. Sorry. And listen, I know I'm being a little bit more like angsty and negative towards some of those people this week. And I promise I'll get that in check, but I've hit my boiling point.
This is the week that it was, I think a lot of people too, and we've talked about, we're really thinking this might be a special year, just like another first-year head coach for Auburn that has a special year, and it's just a reality check. It was a reality check, and it was against Mississippi State of all places, of all teams, but this team was not there, and it showed.
So at the beginning of the season, when I was predicting and people were dogging me for saying 7-5, I didn't change to 8-4 because of them, because I really, as I started to listen to fall practice stuff and kind of just think about things, I was like, I think this team can get out of here with 8 wins. And so but there was always that part of me and why I wanted that 7-5, because I knew there was going to be something like this. No, I didn't think it was going to be Mississippi State. I thought it was going to be Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Man, Mississippi State, man. If it ain't 3-2, it's a 40-point unanswered streak. I have lost so many years of my life, not because of Auburn, but because of what Mississippi State does to Auburn at times. Whether it's Dak Prescott, whether it's whoever, it just is frustrating. And Corey's bringing up the 3-2 score too. I misbehaved very bad about there.
Do we even dare try and grade special teams as well?
We can. Let's do it real quick. I mean, again, as we're not going to go up and down it like we normally do, but what do you say on Austin on special teams?
I have an F.
Yeah,
I have an F, and I think I hate to say that on Anders Carlson's last game of his Auburn career, but I have an F, and it was just part of it was decision making, and part of it, I know Oscar Chapman had a great game. He downed it at the 2-yard line, and he probably doesn't deserve this, but
it's kind of like the linebackers, right? They don't deserve that grade, but they're not. It's not the game. The defense isn't one group or one player.
100%. Anders Carlson was way off on the 55-yarder. Should it have even been kicked? Probably not. It's another decision.
Should we have done the onside kick? We probably had to, but should we have? No. But
we probably had to because of another bonehead decision. And look, this is where I just have to.
Okay, go ahead.
We go down. Bo Nix has sacrificed his ankle for us and has taken us 90 yards to score a touchdown. And there's some hope. There's some hope in the game. There's some Jordan Hare magic.
And I'm sorry. Who did that again?
That was Bo Nix.
Are you one more time?
Bo Nix.
For the people in the back, for those people that continue to dog him even after that.
On a cracked ankle, takes you 90 yards and you score a touchdown. You're now down 9. That's 2 scores. You can either choose to kick it and make it a 1-score game at 8 with about 3 minutes, 45 seconds left. And then you would need 1 stop to get the ball back, and then you go for 2. You keep your team in the game. Or you can go for 2. Yes, you have to go for 2 eventually. I completely understand that. And there's the whole argument of you go for 2, so you know what you have to do from here on out. Well, when you have 3.5 minutes left, you don't really have much time to know what you have to do from here on out. You kick the extra point. Thank you, Corey. I'm here. It's soapy. You kick the extra point, so you're down 8. Instead, we go for 9 with 3.5 minutes. We tell our guys, all right, that's about it. Now we're going to need 2. Even if we get 1, we're going to need a second onside kick just to tie this game up. So instead, we go for 2. We don't get it. The 2-point conversion call we call is for our quarterback with one ankle, and we roll him out. We roll him out. We don't get it. What happens? The defense gets the one stop of the day, and now we got to go back down the field, down 9 with like 2 minutes left.
Right.
Bo's ankle's falling off already. The game's over. It's an absolutely horrible decision that should have been questioned. I thought Bryan Harsin should have to answer for it the second that the press conference started, because I don't care who's the special teams coordinator, he has to overrule that. And that's basic math. We've all heard about the SEC experience on this team, who all's on the coaching staff. If you can't tell me basic math and how you operate in the last 3.5 minutes of game when you're trying to come back and score, I don't know what to tell you.
You good?
I'm good.
Are you good?
Been waiting on that.
Listen, what I don't want to be lost here is that we are not, and I'm speaking for myself, but I feel like I can speak for Austin a little bit on this. Austin especially is very frustrated, Coach Harsin, and the rest of the coaches. We are not saying that we are unsupportive of Coach Harsin, and we're not using this as to be the haha, we told you so, you shouldn't have fired Gus. That's not what's happening here. But we need to be critical where it's critical, and those decisions were very questionable. And hey, everybody makes mistakes. That's but right. Here's what I hope, and I think where's John's comment? Just wrapping up. We're not wrapping up necessarily right now, but just kind of trying to bring everything together. I think he writes it here. Everybody needs to take a step back this week, whether you hate Bo or love Bo, whether you were for Coach Harsin or against Coach Harsin coming to be our new head coach, whether you like the new defense or don't. We all need to take a step back, breathe. Austin and I got it out of our systems today. And we need to rally behind TJ. We need to rally behind whoever the place kicker is going to be. We need to rally behind these guys for these last 2 games, because they are in a first-year transition, new staff, new playbook, weird situations coming off of a pandemic year with everything that threw off, injuries galore, refs debacles galore. There has been a lot thrown at the coaches and at the players and the rest of the staff. And we need to spend these last 2 games worrying less about fighting amongst themselves, fighting how we hate this person or hate that or don't like that person, and really try to figure out, can we end this thing on a strong note? Because if for those of you that love recruiting, that is the thing that's going to show recruits. Yeah, they struggled in that first year, but I went and I saw that awesome atmosphere when the students stay. I saw that awesome. Here I was talking about unity, and I took another shot. I'm sorry. I'm apparently not walking the talk here. We really need to make the best out of all this. Josh says, I got here late. Yes, you have missed a ton, Josh. You have to watch the replay on this. It's been a lot. Ben Hatton. I thought we got a different one there.
Somebody's kicking the ball this week. Let's just hope we just need one good leg. Yeah. But I think that the whole thing, I think you're exactly right, Kyle. And I, as negative as I've been tonight, I'm not going to say my go-to is optimism. And I think that there's a lot of guys on that team who remember losing at South Carolina last year, who do not want to go up there and lose again, and would frankly like to just win and win hard. TJ Finley has played at South Carolina before. I think he's prepared for that atmosphere. And then, folks, it's the Iron Bowl. Okay, it's at our place. It's gonna be a big atmosphere. And so I hope so. It should be a big atmosphere. And so yeah, it's gonna be. There's still hope for the season. I hate to bring this up, but I've seen it a lot, and it puts things in a lot of perspective. we all remember Nick Saban's first year at Alabama, and it was like, oh, look who they've pulled. It's another drought year, and he's he's done way more than they expected. I'm not saying Bryan Harsin's going to win us a billion national championships.
Right.
I don't know that. You don't know that.
And if you're banking, real quick, if you're banking that happening for Auburn, just like you were banking that a Gus magical first year was going to happen again, you need to check yourself.
I got a bunch of oceanfront property to sell you somewhere. But look,
I was going to make another joke there, but we get canceled by the powers that be, and canceling stuff. Never mind.
It's just true. It's true. It's what makes football great. You can't predict anything based off of anything else. So there's no telling how this season ends. It could end poorly. It could end really great. It also doesn't tell us, the trajectory of the rest of Bryan Harsin's career at Auburn or anyone. So, including myself, we're all going to calm down. We're all going to have a great last 2 games. Football takes too long to get back, so I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, Hari, I hope you're not talking about us. We did rant a little bit tonight, but that's what we were just talking about. Everybody needs to chill out. We got it out of our system. Let's move on at this point. I do want to address this because I think it's a good question to ask. My default is somewhat like Austin's, to be optimistic and to think the best of a situation. And James asked, how much blame should we put on the medical staff? This didn't have to happen. If they had properly tested Bo's ankle under the tent, they would have known something was more wrong. And while that, and I don't know, James, you may be a medical professional. I don't know. But I'm going to step out on a limb here and say no, because just the sheer numbers of things, it's probabilities in my favor probably on that. Not say anything about James. If you think that they went out there without testing it properly, then that I have to say that's just kind of being. I shouldn't say that. I would say that they probably tested it and felt comfortable enough, and Bo felt comfortable enough. We can't ignore adrenaline. There's a reason that players that roll their ankles in basketball game, not too bad, but you see them in a boot the next day because the swelling sets in, the adrenaline has worn off, and the actual pain starts setting in. It's possible. I asked my wife, I said, could it have been possible with that type of energy? She said, yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
And Tua did it.
That's right.
Brought out Tua did it. Other players have done it before as well. So keep that in mind. The medical, I don't know that we should put blame on them. It's fair to question, was the right things done? Why was he put back out there? It didn't seem to bother him that much for a little bit because he went out there and led a touchdown drive. But I understand why you go there and why you start asking that. It's a fair question to ask as long as it's put into perspective.
I think too, if you pay attention to Bo Nixon after the game, he didn't think it was much of a big deal, and that's probably like Kyle's saying, he probably hadn't gotten up or got sat down and kind of let it start to swell things at just the pace it was moving. But Kyle's right, adrenaline is some kind of drug for those kind of
lidocaine.
That's right. But and I think Russell put it there too. To his fault or to his fault or to his credit, we've all seen how much of a gamer Bo Nix is, and I have a feeling he was saying, "I'm fine, I'm fine."
Oh yes, and so I'm glad you brought that. I was going to say that too. We can't ignore that. If Bo can go out there and do it, he's going to. He showed that when he played hurt in the bowl game when the transition time, and when Harsin wasn't even here, and we were dealing with Kevin Steele in his last little foray here at Auburn. He was hurt the whole second half at least for that bowl game and went out there and fought, and because he knew his job was on the line. And you got to value that about a guy who has time and time and time again risen to the call. Maybe doesn't make all the right things. Maybe doesn't make all the right decisions all the time, but has the talent to overcome those mistakes that he makes sometimes. And more importantly, has the heart.
And that's where I was going next. And I'll get sappy here. And Clint's interactions with people on Twitter is something that made me think about it. I guarantee you he had adrenaline. That's just the type of how athletics goes. But I also think, like we talked about with Bo transferring or not transferring, I think that Bo values the Auburn uniform he wears a lot more than most of the guys on that team because he grew up in it. And I think he plays for that AU on the helmet. And I love that.
And isn't that sad that people use that against him? Say he only has the job because his daddy has the job. That is such a pathetic take. I'm sorry, it is. It is the way you're going to take. We don't choose our circumstances. We don't choose the dice that are rolled. You know, we can't the card, whatever expression you want to use there. We can only play with the cards that were dealt. And his daddy does that give him an opportunity to be exposed to the program more? Of course. Does he know the right people? Of course. He still has to go out there and earn it.
And in recruiting, aren't we all wanting recruiting to get better? Doesn't that mean exposing them to the program more? I'm for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing is if we hadn't brought Bo Nix in, everybody would have been screaming, what's wrong with the program? What's wrong with the program? You know, it's just one of those times. Again, I just got to reiterate it. Guys, everybody needs to take a step back and just breathe and just realize that you need to just love Auburn because it's Auburn. And because that person that went out in the field there, doesn't matter what their last name is, that they love Auburn enough to be out there. That's what you need to really worry about. Let's see here. Yahari says, I'm way more concerned about the defense this week than our offense. We talked about that a lot. Auburn will lean heavily on the running game. South Carolina has a confident quarterback, and they play well at home. There are some dangerous things about South Carolina, and we're going to discuss that Wednesday night here live. Come back if you can, and we'll preview that matchup. Live call-in show. Anybody can call in, not just the Booster Club members. That's what's on the table there. Also want to give you a heads up. Unless things change tomorrow night, I'm also planning to go live. We're going to do our first of what will hopefully become a more regular basketball show. We'll start on Tuesday nights when football's done. It'll probably move over to the Monday night slot. But I know that we are all excited about that. So I hope that you can come talk about the first week of college basketball, the first week of what is going to be a very fun, it seems like, college basketball season. And Jabari Smith, he can play some basketball, can't he?
Dude, I'm kidding.
All right. Any final thoughts that you want to say about Mississippi State, Auburn, Bo, Anders, Harsin, just, whatever you need to say, get it off your chest right now. I know you had a lot to say.
I was about to say, I've been doing a lot of that. No, you just put this game behind you. I hope that's a great point, Russell, and I hope we don't find out this coming Saturday. And I think that a lot of it has to do with you just put this game behind you, and you try and move on. You play for some pride, and play for your head coach because he's your head coach, and you play for your coordinators. And I just hope that the guys on the field who are actually not have as many of the fan base has. I'll with that.
You cut off a little bit there for us, but we got the gist of what you were saying. It was one of those embarrassing moments where you're frozen, like in an awkward, talking pose. It was pretty funny for me to watch on this end, especially when you're trying to make the big speech and all that stuff. So yeah, let's do. I think that's my main thing. I've already said it 1,000 times. Let's get behind him. Let's get behind Harsin, and let's make the best of these last 2 and 3 games because they are bowl eligible. And we're playing for a better bowl position. If you don't want to go to the Birmingham Bowl, you better be really, really rooting for this team. The last couple of games. Listen, in a transition year, I will take whatever amount of success that we can get. And I know it seems cliche, and I know it seems like we've talked about a lot, but there's still a lot on the table for this team. So with that, we're going to wrap things up here. Thank you guys for joining us and for dealing with us, having a little bit of rantiness tonight and letting us kind of get on our soapboxes. It's been very much needed on our parts, but I hope that maybe it allowed you to share some of your thoughts as well. A couple reminders. If you haven't, smash that like button if you enjoy this type of content. Go check out the Bo Nix video that we did. If you haven't, there's going to be some other videos coming out this week. Live stream tomorrow, live stream Wednesday, podcast all this week. You got content out the wazoo if you need it. And then please do make sure you check out some of the links in the description for ways that you can help support some of the content we do here, where it's becoming a channel member here. So it starts at $1 a month, or a Booster Club member, which starts at $1 a month. Check out those links in the description. What are you laughing about?
what's Corey's last comment? That one owned me.
Can we put Bowen out in a motorized wheelchair with a cannon? He's got a cannon on his arm. That's probably, he's overthrown some people. That's his problem. I could just see Bo and a quarterback with the wheels to go with it. Number 10, Bo Nix. Hey, is that what they mean with a wheel route? All right, guys. Thank y'all so much. I'm going to end on that awful note there. We appreciate each and every one of you. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
See you the rest of the week. Talk to you